Helicopters Magazine, your source for Canadian industry news and business intelligence for more than 30 years.
There is a real concern in the helicopter industry and other segments of the Canadian aviation community that operators will soon be facing a severe shortage of qualified workers, specifically retiring pilots, maintenance staff, and middle management. We asked our esteemed panel how serious a concern this is, how they work to retain staff, and what the prospects are for young people coming into the industry.
When we go into arrangements with clients who place what we would consider unrealistic expectations on the skill sets for the pilots required on contract. Okay. And some of these contract requirements are being driven by outside auditors who may have their own agendas. So by the time it filters from auditing agencies to the corporate headquarters to regional headquarters to national operations, all of a sudden they show up and they want a pilot with 3,000 hours and an ATPL, and he wants to do this, that, and the other thing, but all he's really doing is flying a Twin Star. Is that a reasonable requirement? And of course, we're sensitive to the customer. The customer, we want to get their business, but I think if as an industry or as individual operators, we push back a little bit to some of these requirements to say, allow us to have alternative means of compliance with your standard. So if the guy doesn't have this skill set, but we do this, let us put him on the contract, because there's a big gap from the 110-hour pilot to the 1,500-hour pilot. How do we create those 1,400 missing hours? That is the challenge. And certainly, I'm sure Paul is faced with it every day when the students come in and they spend a lot of money to get a rating. People come up to me and say, I want to become a helicopter pilot, and I tell them, you can get a PhD for less money. Yeah. Now, you may still be unemployed with a PhD, but hey, you'll be a smart unemployed guy. But for a young fella to bear that type of debt, to be 25 years old with $65,000 in debt and unable to work, that's a scandal. Yeah. And sometimes I think that's being driven by customers who have unrealistic expectations. Right. Well, here's a big jump here, but let's have skill-based qualifications as opposed to strictly numbers-based qualifications. If I can prove to you that the pilot is a competent long-line pilot, it shouldn't matter if he has 4,000 hours or 400 hours. Right. And let's not be pilot-centric here. There's an awful lot of AMEs over the age of 50. Yeah. And I personally think that the big crisis in our industry is not going to be driven by the lack of pilots. It's going to be driven by the lack of qualified AMEs.
And that came out of camps, they have very big.
I can walk into a high school and offer training and qualification. A year later, I can have a qualified helicopter pilot. Yeah. But it takes me 4 years to get a guy that can sign off my helicopter, and that's a big gap. Yeah. So, I think that it's important that we're conscious about pilots. But I think the real challenge is going to be AMEs in the next 10 years. We're going to be in trouble as an industry if we don't move forward.
There's some graduates who feel that they should have a $5,000 a month job and fly an A-Star. That's just the nature of the young people these days. Yeah. A lot of them aren't willing to sweep the floor or paint the fence around the hangar, that kind of thing. And I try to encourage them, say, you got to keep your hands out of your pockets, don't kick the stones on the ramp, find something to do in the hangar, and don't have to be directed all the time. That's what an operator, I think, is looking for, someone who can come up with work that has to be done and get it done. We try to help them out as much as we can. I have associations with a few companies that do take low-time people and pay them, a fair enough wage for starting off. The first year that I worked, I basically worked for food and lodging for a month or two in the summer to get my hours in. And now the graduates are making more money, but there is also I see it shrinking a little bit. The companies that were taking low-time people and putting them in, because now their customers are demanding higher times, 1,500 hours, 3,000 hours, whatever, and it's tough for a 100-hour guy to get that time.
When this recession is over, we're going to see a shortage of pilots and engineers like we have never experienced before. That is clear to everyone. So, you know, making the fit better, getting more people in, qualified people into our industry that stay on our industry is a key objective. One of the other issues that you raised is the performance-based system rather than strictly hours that we've been dealing with historically. Recently, the association's board has approved the pilot competencies for wildfire operations, where we work with our customers and the agencies for firefighting to come up with a competency-based system for qualifying pilots to fly on fires rather than a strictly hours-based system, which has been used and was problematic, quite frankly. So that will come into force this season and holds tremendous promise for other areas of the industry where our operators through HAC's committees can work collaboratively with their customers to come up with more realistic expectations for the pilots that will be flying for them.
We certainly agree with the premise that the engineering shortage is going to be a very, very major problem.
Yep.
It's going to be the big problem.
Okay.
There's an abundant pool of licensed pilots out there, and as has been identified already, it's more a question of the qualification and competencies of the pilots insofar as obtaining work is concerned. We've traditionally been a very low turnover organization for staff, pilots and engineers, and there are a number of factors that have been involved in that reality. The quality of our maintenance has always been a very, very highly regarded aspect of Highland throughout the industry, and certainly among the pilots in the industry. We've never been the highest paying organization at all, but our turnover is very, very low.
I think we have a challenge and we have an opportunity at our new business. The challenge is that, yes, it's becoming harder and harder to find the ATPLH 3,000 hour plus multi-crew experienced pilot that we can quickly slot into a captain seat.
Yeah.
And as we're looking at expanding our operation, that's a challenge because we have to find those people. We can't start with inexperienced pilots. However, as the medical industry, the EMS operations expand in Canada, and I hear rumors about increasing interest in two-pilot operations in oil and gas, I think we'll actually have a new opportunity we haven't had before in the helicopter industry to actually start moving low-time pilots through as co-pilots. Then the challenge is to figure out some way to feed them back into the industry so that they can get the pilot in command bush experience. And in the past, what we've done at STARS is given up to 12-month LOAs to co-pilots to do just that. We'll give them that time off, we'll maintain their benefits, we don't pay them, but we give them a chance to get back in industry and work for another operator. Sometimes they don't come back. They enjoy getting out on their own so much that they keep on doing it, and that's great. We may see them back a few years down the road, but it's a win-win because then we get them back, and they'll be probably in a better position to get upgraded to a captain slot. So I think there's synergies there, and I think we can work creatively with the rest of industry to figure out how to upgrade these pilots.